What's up, guys? It's Colin Tilley. Welcome to Podcastle episode 4. Super excited about today's episode. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite videos that I've done to date, Post Malone Circles. First of all, Post Malone has definitely been, one of the artists that was kind of on my bucket list. Every year I kind of have a couple artists that I'm like, oh man, I would really love to work with this person this year, somebody that really inspires me. And when you put that energy out into the atmosphere and you really manifest it, oftentimes that manifestation will come true. I always believe that when you're out and you're grinding and you're getting it and you're putting energy into the right areas, you end up connecting the dots. And I connected the dots on this video through a friend of a friend. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm writing on circles. Long story short, I did this treatment. I'm ready to go, smash song, was obsessed with the concept, but then they hit me and they're like, hey, we'd like to do goodbyes first. So I actually had to then write a treatment for goodbyes, go shoot goodbyes, make sure I fucking killed it, because I knew what was coming next, and that was Circles. And Circles was just a really, 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 really special project for me, from the concept to me just having a gut feeling about the hit song. When you have specific artists that you have a vision for, as far as the way that they should be represented, as far as where you want to see their brand taken, where you want to see their visual identity, as far as just levels. I wanted to see Post Malone on a specific level that I had not seen before. And so I wanted to take him naturally into a very, very cinematic environment. So the cool thing is when Post sent the song, he had one note, and he wanted to he wanted it to be medieval. He wanted to wear medieval armor. And so, from right there, that's a really great starting point. I mean, it was like, okay, cool, here we go. And I've been wanting to do something medieval for so long. So something big about this was it's a Russian film called Hard to Be a King. And this is like a masterpiece of a film. Super gritty, crazy armor, crazy set design, crazy costumes, and it's just covered in dirt, covered in mud. And that was a really big starting point. I pulled a couple of visual references from this film. It's black and white, but it has this medieval feel to it, but it's just about the grittiest thing I've ever seen. And when I look at Post Malone, that's definitely, I see a lot of grit, and I wanted to bring that out, but on a pop star level. So that was where I really started with it. I'm going to honestly, because I haven't watched this video in a while, I'm going to jump into this. This opening shot is always something that I just heard the moment that I heard the musical of this song. I saw Post in his armor clad, with the sword in the ground, face down, eyes down, with his armor on, dead bodies all over, arrows, just this really epic scene. And I always saw this kind of like spotlight that looked like it was coming from heaven or something, that just like he was the only one that was still surviving in this crazy battle. First of all, the approach for this piece was let's figure out how to create the most accurate battle scene, in Los Angeles by using the natural environment, but bringing all of this production design in and bring all of this very accurate armor in, all the costumes and everything. So we basically found a spot, out in the hills, and the goal was, let's muddy it up as much as possible. That's going to be the number one thing that really helps take us into another world. Then let's bring in all different types of smokes, not just regular fog that you would see on set, but we actually had black smoke bombs. We had, a special effects department that was literally drenching our set in all different types of smoke, and it just smelled horrible. It was pretty gnarly. It was one of the hottest days, and Post Malone had to wear this armor. Now, this armor, it looks Like, he looks like a straight up badass, but let me tell you, it's so hot in there. And he had to be wearing this all day long. And by the end of the day, I was really afraid he was gonna pass out or something, because, I mean, it's hot in there and you can't just take it on and off all day long. So anyways, opening scene, Post, sword in the ground, the last survivor, his journey begins. Now, I always imagined his like demeanor, like it's post-battle, like, so he's like catching his breath. He's lost friends, he's lost family in this battle, like he's just looking down. Like, you never even have this reveal of his eyes until a certain beat in the song. And I like to play these pieces to where it's like the physicality of his acting is matching perfect with certain beats in the song. And that's how I would time out transitions and certain camera moves that were certain lengths. And so I really like had this kind of timed out in my head like a musical, but this musical is all about subtlety. So at the specific moment when he looks up into the lens, it's such a powerful moment. Now, as you can see in the video, his eyes actually turn from straight up white, no pupils or anything, to then back to real life. Now, this was a very subtle tie-in to Goodbyes, because Goodbyes, he plays a zombie. So, and at the end, it ends with, you know, Budweiser beer coming through his neck and his eyes are fully transformed into zombie mode. So I felt like it would be cool if there was a really cool tie-in to the whole piece. So that's why you get this effect at the very beginning of it. So I've hoped that fans would be able to see that. Now, by the way, something else is this took a lot of bodies. We had to have a lot of extras on set, and people had to lay in the dirt in the hot sun for a long time. And so it was definitely a lot for our AD department to have to, you know, make sure everybody's safe and okay. And we're pouring blood over people. Like, it was an uncomfortable environment, but it was definitely brutal. Like, and man, it really makes you think when you look at some of your favorite movies that have these massive battle scenes. It's uncomfortable. It's like a really, really uncomfortable environment. And this, on this scale, was pretty small compared to what, you know, some of these movies are. And I just really, it made me have a lot of appreciation for some of these bigger films that use so many extras. Even if they're dead laying on the ground, there's a lot that comes with that. So yeah, basically, the idea is Post Malone is walking through this post-battle, and he's kind of the last survivor. And there are some people that have still survived, and they're kind of the lost people in the hills. But he's making his way to this very surreal dreamscape that Rapunzel's stuck in the middle of this like kind of cabin cage that's like in the middle of these trees, but it's like magically, you know, entrapped into the trees. And there's all these guards that are just have dedicated their lives to guarding her in the trees. And she has a spell cast on her to where her mouth is completely taken away. And I originally actually wanted her entire face, her eyes and everything to have the spell on it to where she can't see or speak. And she has to wait, you know, for Post Malone to come save her. But then, you know, when we were shooting the scenes, her eyes really conveyed so much emotion. And I realized, man, like if we cover up her eyes, it's not going to be the same effect. You won't be able to connect with her as well emotionally. So we ended up keeping her eyes in, taking the mouth out for the effect of just continuing to make you feel like you're trapped. Like imagine if all of a sudden your mouth was glued shut. It would be horrible. So anyways, something that was really important to me about creating this piece is like the blocking, the camera movement, and the way that you are taken into every section of these battlegrounds. And so it was really important for me to work with Elias on creating these incredible camera moves. So we had 100, 200 foot dolly tracks set up in order to move through some of these worlds and create the perfect transition points. And I wanted him to be able to have nice runways, but I broke the song up to where certain parts of his performance were happening along one track, and then it cuts, and at that cut point we pick it up at the next point. And I felt like it really helped create a very diverse edit, and it was edited before we shot, and that helped us so much be able to move through our world, knowing that we knew exactly how this piece was going to be put together. So even on this beginning shot, you can see it goes from aerial perspective. It swipes behind a tree. We jump into these really graphic POVs of, you know, what he's looking at in this world to really help it make it a more of a visceral experience for the viewer. And I gotta say, I think that Post Malone nailed it perfectly as far as his performance. We really spoke in depth beforehand about what the tonality here was. So he really gave it a more subdued feel as far as his performance. He wasn't jumping around. No, he knows that he's on this journey. And the performance, as far as lip sync, is, yes, he's singing the song, but it's almost like it's all in his head. And it's subdued. It's like it's more about his physical acting moving through this world, and it's almost like the performance was a second thought, and that helped contribute to making this video that much more cinematic, and more of that style of experience. It's not like direct to camera, let me perform all the way through this music video. No, let's create a mini film here and have the song be a soundtrack to it. So we basically, by the way, on set, our A unit, which was typically techno crane mixed with pretty massive dolly moves, mixed with some steady cam. We were definitely, you know, playing with it all. Then we had our B unit, where Johnny was our second unit director. He was shooting everything with our Rapunzel in this beautiful set that Chris Beltran created, our production designer. And oh man, like I gotta say, like these shots inside of this beautiful treehouse Rapunzel cage were just so beautiful. And it was a lot of fun playing with abstract imagery in there. And something that Jonathan and I talked about a lot were just how do we make these shots of Rapunzel feel like dreams? How do we create more of an abstract framing, and how do we use the mirrors and all the different reflections and like the special, more of the magical elements to tell the story rather than try and have her act this whole thing out. And so it was a lot of fun actually playing with negative space and negative frames, knowing that like in this mirror on the wall, it was almost like this portal where she could see Post Malone's journey. And in the edit, I worked with Vinny a lot creating these beautiful compositions. So it was basically comping Post Malone walking through, you know, these battlefields into the mirror shots, and it just ended up, I think it was just such a perfect mixture, and it just flowed together like, you know, a water painting. It really does. And it really worked out perfectly, I feel. So, and there's this one special shot here where you can see the trees moving, and I really wanted to take these other surreal elements from the atmosphere itself. And so originally, like in my treatment, I had, oh, maybe these trees are dripping black sap down the trees. They're bleeding, and all of this stuff. So we actually ended up setting all these markers on set in order to be able to create some of those, but it didn't pick up the way I wanted. So instead, we worked with our VFX team, Digital Axis, to actually take these trees and put more of this just mystical feel to things. And so we'd have the trees moving, and you know, it's kind of like the little subtle Tim Burton references that I love to try and hold on to in music videos, but putting them into more of a cinematic environment. And they're very subtle. So this is such a great shot. Like, I love these exterior shots that we shot of the treehouse cage, because we actually built that into a tree on the like ranch that we were shooting on, which was really, really hard for our exterior shots. And then we cheated our interior down, you know, on the ground. But like really, this treehouse was built into a tree about 20 feet off the ground, really wild. And then we worked with our VFX team to actually embed it into the tree like it was almost like a magical spell that was cast. So it was like, literally like growing out of this tree, which I thought was so cool, and I love the effect of it now. I love this scene of Post Malone walking through the village. I felt like this was actually the first scene we shot of the entire video, and I always imagined this scene happening on the chorus because I really blocked this thing out so that it moves, and like I want to be able to have certain scenes hit on certain beats of the song so that you can really see progression throughout the piece. But I really felt like we just really nailed this village in an accurate way, from the characters acting to the blocking of people running through frame to the guy with his arm cut off. Like, there was just a lot of really special moments in this. By the way, we also got extremely lucky because Elias and I tested this look several times to try and figure out how to make a piece like this that's shot in LA still have this colder, darker skies effect, as far as like all the war scenes that I've loved throughout film history have always had this overcast tone to them. So they're shot in like London or some crazy place. You can't do that in LA. We got so lucky, and on the day of our shoot, it actually was overcast. So like that was just like that was when the movie gods were really on our side. And a couple times you see the sun peek out a little bit, but with all the color tests that we did, we actually shot underexposed and then brought it back up in color with Brian, and it really worked so well, and it's a look that I'm like really proud of. We shot large format Alexa. We shot anamorphic. I don't shoot anamorphic a lot, but I felt like this was the perfect look and piece to shoot anamorphic on. It's funny, this one shot that we used for the transition here, with the clouds going over Post Malone, we actually set up this long, really intricate dolly that we had him stand on. Yeah, it's at 140 here. We actually set up a dolly all the way through the village and had him coasting on it because I thought it would be a cool effect for one of the performances. And it actually looked really amazing. But tonally, it did not match the edit the way I wanted, so we never used a single performance of it, except for this one moment here, which is more of like this, this is kind of where things start to get trippy in the dreams. So we actually reverse the shot, and you see him going backwards and looking around, and the clouds are kind of going over his head. And that starts to take you into the second verse, which is when I start to introduce some more kind of fantastical elements to kind of play along this fantasy ride. So here, this Post continues his journey. He finds a horse in this village, the last one. He takes it. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna keep this venture going. I got a new buddy. So I love these shots of him walking next to the horse. They feel very, it just adds more personality to his performance in a very cool way. I like that you see him leaving the village behind. You see it in the background, and he keeps going on his journey. So here, as he's walking on the journey, you can only imagine, after going through, such a crazy battle, in my head, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be really interesting if on this journey he starts to kind of trip out? He starts to see mirages. He starts to feel like he's getting closer to her. And just from a video standpoint, what can I do here that's going to be even more interesting, that can kind of mess with the audience and also just create some really, really, really striking visuals? So he basically stops. We built this lake, and we actually found a part of this ranch that had some kind of dip in the ground. And we went there a couple days before, poured a bunch of water into this place, and actually created our own lake for this set, which is pretty awesome. And again, movie magic. You can really work anywhere and be able to create the environment you want if you are smart with it. So he sees this. He sees what he thinks is his Rapunzel in the lake, and he goes in after her and follows her. But when he gets there, he realizes it was all a mirage, and it's just nothing, and all of a sudden he starts sinking in the water, and all of a sudden disappears. And that basically is the catalyst for our entire dream sequence and kind of nightmare sequence to begin. So it was wild too, because when he was in there, when you create kind of a man-made lake like that, but without cement on the bottom, and he had these massive, boots on, it's impossible to walk. It actually is like quicksand. And when you have all that armor on, it actually gets pretty dangerous. So like he killed his performance in there, all of that stuff, but then it was like, yo, I can't move. I'm actually stuck. And he got stuck in the middle of the lake, which was pretty wild. But we had a great safety and stunt team on there. TJ and his squad were awesome, and was very thankful for them. So anyways, that's the catalyst for this crazy breakdown. And it's when he gets sunk under the water, all of a sudden, boom, you start to see this fire, and you start to see, like, it's almost as if there was like a plague, and you see this massive fire and these people in these weird masks, and he's walking down, and he looks into the fire, and he actually sees himself burning in the middle of this massive bonfire that was created. And it's like this weird ceremonial type situation. And again, like, this is just, I like to be able to take music videos like this into a more surreal place. So in order to create that effect of him actually inside the fire, we basically propped him up on top of what would be a huge bonfire like that, and then put a couple fire bars on either side of him, so he was affected by the light but not actually in the fire. But you still have the same lighting illumination on his skin without actual fire on him. And then it's so much easier for our post team to be able to come in and add fire in, because fire, by the way, is the worst thing to do in post effects. It just always looks like shit. I thought this looked pretty good for post fire that he was in. Because we were able to bring it as close to him as possible. It's still really hot, but it was, obviously we're not going to burn Post Malone on. And again, I love playing with this surreal imagery. So then we have like these crazy skeletons behind him kind of haunting him. And it's just another cool ode to the goodbyes video with the zombies. So then there's this shot of Post basically getting pulled into a grave by all these hands and stuff like this. And we actually did this practically on set. We had to basically dig about a 6-foot grave and create a system that could lower down. And that was really, really wild to do. That was the last shot of our night actually on our shoot. By the way, we did this entire shoot in one day. And that's why we had 2 units going at the same time. So it was really wild, because I had Johnny on one unit, I was on the other one. I'd be sprinting back and forth, and we had buggies just taking us all over. It was really intense. But when you plan things out with your team, and you go into so many details, and you communicate with everybody at such a high level, you can get this type of stuff accomplished in one day. It was a lot of fun too, because we had Rapunzel, and obviously they're both in 2 separate places. So you basically, when you're directing an actor that's obviously not acting to the other actor, you just basically help them find their imagination. And so what we worked on was, okay, you see Post in the distance, blah, blah, blah. Now you see him in the mirror, he's doing this, he just did this. And it's a lot of fun really seeing an actor light up and use their imagination and find those different beats for you. And she ended up really doing such a great job with it. And I really love what Maxie did on the hair. He did this long, like 30-foot red Rapunzel braid. It was so gorgeous. So it's always a lot of fun kind of seeing a character overcome something. And that was, so basically with the purple flower here, it's almost like they're connected through something deeper. They're connected through magic. So although she's trapped in this magical nightmare, she also has these magical powers, and she's like connected to him in a really interesting way. So when he drowns in the lake and goes into this deep dive of a nightmare and basically sees his own death in front of his eyes, she helps him come back from that. She helps him basically continue the journey on to come get her. So she drops the flower out the window, boom, it falls into the grave, and all of a sudden Post is like, I got this, and he keeps going. We were chasing the sunset. This sun right here is the real sun. We were like so freaked out we weren't gonna get this shot, and we ran over there with Greg on Steadicam. This is our stunt double on the horse, and we just silhouetted him and had this shot go across frame, running through the sun with the horse. And then we ended up changing his hair and everything in post to make sure it was accurate to who Post Malone was. So then boom, you see all the guards guarding her. You see Post Malone getting closer on the horse. You're creating tension. And by the way, we only had 4 guards here that were under the tree. And our post team was able to multiply this and put all of these other guards here to make it feel that much bigger and that much more, intimidating. So then you see Post Malone take out the sword. And it was really important for me because I didn't want to see Post Malone like fighting these guards off. I felt like that was not going to be the right tone that we needed for this. It's more about selling the audience that he did fight them, and you more see the aftermath. So it's a lot of fun being able to play with cuts like that and play with actions like that, and just kind of like foreshadowing something. So you see him take out his sword, and then you cut to a couple different things, and then all of a sudden you see all the guards are dead, and he starts climbing up Rapunzel. And that was a really cool shot to do because we rigged up our stunt double. We had him climb up Rapunzel's hair, and it looked really, really good. And then at the final shot of the video is, of course, Post Malone riding off with Rapunzel and her hair just drifting through our frame. Just really beautiful, magical shot to end the piece on. And we shot this when it was completely pitch black out. We had basically lost our sun, but it ended up being perfect for this ending shot because it really showed time go by. And, it was a really spectacular shot. So that's pretty much the whole video. And I think that, a couple really, really good takeaways from this piece. I feel like, number one, man, Post Malone is one of the funnest people to work with. I thought he just had the best attitude all day long. He really doesn't intimidate you or your team as a director. He's one of those artists that really makes it feel like family, and he's so cool to every single person on set. And that really helps everybody be able to create at their ultimate level. So he definitely understands the process. So working with Post Malone is like a dream. Number two, another really important takeaway from this video was communication. When you're working and you're basically creating sets all throughout a massive ranch in order to create these things, our communication level from our producers to every single department had to be so wild. So the pre-planning of this video was everything, or else we would have never been able to accomplish this video in one day. The post-production on this was so much fun. Like I said, it was really cool to have this entire thing blocked out, and then when you have a piece so specifically blocked out for the edit, it actually gives you more room in the edit to play because it's there. There's a format that's already created, and then you aren't sitting there in the edit trying to figure out, oh, how is this gonna come together? It's already together, and you get to go in and just make it better. You get to go in and find all the little hidden gems that you would have never thought of based on having this thing blocked out in your head perfectly. Our VFX team were incredible. They added the perfect elements in to where nothing really felt too like VFX-y. It really felt like a practically done, war video. It's really cool to break this video down with you guys because I haven't seen it pretty much since it's come out. And so it's always a really nice kind of debrief to look back at something and kind of try and pick it apart a little bit. And when I look back at the video, I definitely am very proud of what we did on it. I'm really happy to be able to break it down with you guys. And, I think you can really feel the passion and the experience that we had on this set. It was nothing but fun. This is like what it's all about. When you drive home from a set like this and you're like, oh my gosh, we did it. We chased the sun today. That's an incredible feeling. So again, appreciate you guys for tuning in to to Podcastle episode 4. It's been epic. Can't wait to keep breaking videos down with you. Thank you so much. Drop a comment, subscribe, let me know what other videos you want me to break down, but also if I'm not covering a certain part of production that you'd like to know about, definitely let me know. I'm happy to keep dropping knowledge and, just giving you insight behind the creative process, the experience of this. This is what it's all about. We get to create for a living. It's the coolest thing. And I feel like anybody that wishes they could or has the dream or wants to manifest this, you should do it. So all I'm here to do is help and keep giving insight. I'm excited. Let's get it. Podcastle episode 4. Thank you so much.